complex, so it's like, he's probably rolling in on the overtime.
Gentleman protein means that means for temporary. So if he's out, the protein can.
Yeah, I'll close everything. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. Okay. I printed a copy for myself, so you can go in on the rest of it.
That's what, I was surprised that he didn't respond. He said if he could do it on his phone, that was.
I think he's gotten better about it. I don't think he knows the difference between text and everything else.
Phone's charging.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, if you wanna put it on a table or something, but you're fine with it there.
Be fine with it.
And I assume you also want my email about the other.
I'm sorry?
Also want to know about the other proposal, yeah. And so in all fairness, I said it was side by side,
Yep.
just share the facts and that's the one. But quite frankly, we don't have the budget.
Right.
I'm sure y'all probably figured that out. Our intent is to sell. Yeah. So,
Yeah, you know, if in a perfect world, maybe the city would run it, but
we try to.
unlimited, pocketbook.
If all of our departments were fully staffed and we didn't have additional needs, that's one thing, but can't anticipate support, it's ultimately everything is a council decision, but far greater needs. The staffing and all that, the
Yeah,
expand and create something new.
no, I agree.
Yeah. Also, if y'all hear us, I'm gonna try at the beginning of the meeting to catch the mayor, but tonight we're streaming via YouTube channel, in our YouTube channel. And so, we've been doing Zoom for the last couple of years, and so we have a new, like, software and sound system, so anyone who speaks at the podium or into a microphone, just make sure that they're actually speaking into it, so that you pick up on the audio. And the recording will be available there, so, we talked back and forth about not having them or not, but I feel like for transparency's sake, it's.
Right, from the lawyer's point of view, it's great.
Oh, I'm sure, on both sides.
Then if somebody wants a public record,
Mm-hmm.
go to YouTube.
Yeah.
It's all recorded, and
Yeah, so,
Is it live or it's after?
it's
That's
live,
right.
like,
It's
yeah.
live, okay, and that's on the website?
Uh-huh.
It'll be on the website.
Yeah, I think there's a link for the YouTube.
I
channel.
think it's on the website.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying not to get you to talk too much. She's lost her voice.
Surprised no one's here yet.
I'm surprised one is not here. Yeah, it was.
She texted me.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Came to Lake and, Tracy's shoulder.
Already, we're live now.
sorry.
We're live right now. On YouTube. People know I'm watching.
Where's the camera? Oh, it's back there.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Tracy.
Social Kansas, yeah. How was it? Did you guys talk now? How about that? Wonderful.
Barely, yeah, very good on gas. Hey, good evening, how y'all doing?
I'm Keith.
Bobby Martin.
Nice to
Good to see you again. Good to see you again, man.
Wayne Smith. I'm Keith. How are you, Wade?
Pleasure, sir. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
You sound a little bit better than Tracy.
Yeah, you don't sound raspy, man.
Well, I'm looking at,
help you out.
We just had two really good ones, Friday and Saturday, sold out. One of them
How
was.
you doing?
Hey, how are you,
Good to
buddy?
see you.
I'm Keith White.
Tommy Dog.
Nice to meet you, Tom. How are
Tweety
you?
Lynn. Conway's grandson, and
Hey, man.
good to see you again. Yes, sir.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Wayne, how you doing?
How you doing?
Good, how you, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Hey, dude. How you doing? I'm great. I'm great.
How you doing today?
Can't complain.
Man, that, I'm so disappointed at that house. Oh, yeah, my wife is, they're talking, they get called, hey man, you know anything about the house? Yeah, I do, I think it's really the person that you need for a guy.
Well, it's a hard, it's a,
What's happening, I don't know,
it is boring. You have to have a certain, mentality to want to, do that to yourself. Cause a lot of it is punishment. Trying to get that right.
I was hoping she would. I know she can't play. Really good to play, of course.
Good luck.
But it even better feel like.
Yes, yes, I was like, oh, so. Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Not yet. Friday.
He said y'all live up here?
Yes, sir, I'm doing well. We've been living the dream for the last 8 years with the food. Well, we live in the county, so our taxes in the tree. Yeah, this is home. Les, Councilman Smith.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing great.
All right. Good to see you.
Great, Jesse, really, you're on there everywhere.
Everything all right in the land ball?
Keep working on that.
The thing, so how long we get to see you for the last? 15 years. Can't do anything right, we can talk about it.
For 2 months, that's a totally different conversation. Not a big deal, so.
I think just wait 2 weeks. And if we need to have a work session, she can call 30 minutes early. Work session. I guess it. It's just like this kid to do it right now, so it's gonna be postponed for 2 months.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming this evening. At this time, I'd like to call our meeting to order and offer an invocation. Father, we come here again this afternoon. We look for wisdom and guidance from you. We thank you, Lord, for the many blessings that you have given us this day and those that you provide in so much of an abundance each and every day. We just know that each day we will fail at many of the things that we do, but we know that you will continue to love us. You will continue to lift us up if we look to you. So we just ask that as we go through this meeting, that we would do things that would be better for our community, make it a better place to live and work, make it a place that people want to come here and be amongst us. As we leave here tonight, may we go with you and continue to abide within you and you in us in the days to come. Amen.
Amen.
All right, the city manager has informed me that we're taking a little bit different approach in how we're making our meetings available to the viewing public. So with that being said, I will let her explain it a little bit more. Ms. Traynor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are starting out tonight using the YouTube channel for streaming our meetings rather than Zoom. And so there is a link available through the website, but just wanted to bring that to your attention here tonight, and also because it is very important that people use their microphones to speak into. So council members and anyone who uses the podium, please be sure to speak into the microphone so that those watching remotely via the web can hear you. So if we have any, and also just to please bear with us if we experience any glitches for those listening, just in case there are any issues, forgive us, and any record of the meeting will be available through the city clerk.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. And she has also informed me that we need to add an item 5, which is a closed session, to the agenda. If someone would like to, do we need a motion to do that? Okay, we need a motion to add an item 5 as a personnel matter under the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we add a closed session to discuss a personnel matter allowed by NCGS 143-318.11A6.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Farabee and a second by Councilwoman Bryant. Is there any discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion would be carried, and item 5 would be added on to the agenda. For our next items, the audit report, I call on Mr. Redmond, Mr. Greg Redmond. Good afternoon. It's good to see you again.
Good afternoon, almost good evening. Good to see everybody here too, and some new faces. So this is the financial statements. You have a copy of the audit report, and you also have a copy of a handout. You know, a lot of places I go, they just want a summary of the report, and so this is what I've done. But you've got the report. If you have any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer those. So financial statements and audit report for the year June 30, 2022. The audit was submitted timely, so that's the first thing I'd like to say. And then on your first page of your handout, it shows this is the independent auditor's report. So the report has grown. It's 95 pages this year. It's single audit, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more. But this one paragraph summarizes the whole report when it says that in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, there were no material weaknesses, no material findings that had to be reported in this report. So that's unmodified opinion is the term for that. So the general fund balance sheet is on your second page. And this comes from page 15. I've referenced the page numbers if you want to look later. You'll see the cash in the bank. A couple of things we talked about on this page. Cash in the bank. Cash in the bank at June 30, 2022 was $6.9 million versus 4.4 the year before. The other thing we look at is unrestricted fund balance, which is the third line from the bottom, but I won't talk about that now because that's actually on the next page. But other than that, there's no material changes in the general fund balance sheet. receivables or tax receivable are all comparable. So again, the increase in cash is, some of that's from grants, but regardless of the reason, there's more money than there was the year before. The next page, this is what you look at when you look at your fund balance. How much undesignated fund balance, that's the amount of money you have available to spend versus your expenses of the year. So you'll see the comparison of the 2 years. So I've highlighted in yellow, you have a 31% fund balance. Now the minimum, I think, set by the board many years ago was 25%, and the LGC likes to see 25%. So you're above that percentage of your fund balance. Part of the grants, and of course, one of the big items on the audit report is the debt. So the next page, which calls changes in long-term liabilities. We have pensions and health care on here, but the main item, of course, is the tax increment revenue bonds, and that's the big number in the middle. Started out the year with $11.9 million. There was a payment made of $3.5 million. So it brings it down to just over $8 million. So part of that was from grant money, but part of it was from the general fund revenues also. So again, a good reduction in your debt. And then you remember there still was an increase in cash even over and above that. Before we talk about the letters and internal control and all that issues, the last page is your analysis of current tax levy. And I've sat here for many years telling you that the statewide average is 99%, and we just didn't quite make it. Well, we almost made it. 98.91% tax percentage collection. And that's for Eastern North Carolina, that's very good. I've got one town out of the 20 audits we do that had 99%, and not many are 98.91. I know the county collects your money, but it's still the townspeople that pay it. You're still responsible. So as long as you're collecting 99% of your tax revenues, that helps your general fund. So I mentioned this is a single audit. So of course you receive grant funds over and above $750,000. You received ARPA money. You received another direct state grant award. It changes the focus of the audit for us. Really not how it's operated with the administration, but we look at further depth into internal control, how the grants were spent. Did they meet compliance with the regulations of how it was spent? And this letter states again, last sentence highlighted, the results of my test disclosed no instances of findings. So this also is an unmodified opinion. So that's pretty short there. But again, it really says the same things. If I'd have went through those 95 pages, the general fund had a profit, revenues over expenses, cash increased, and made a good payment on debt. And we still had more money coming in after year end from the ARPA money. So no internal control issues that we noted, no material weaknesses, nothing that we're going to recommend be changed with the internal control of how the finances are operated. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Redmond?
I guess I have a general question in summary in relation to the other small towns. Are we on board or pretty much in line, or how are we doing in relation to that?
You are, I've said this, and it's hard for maybe you, the board, to see it, but general funds typically support themselves. I mean, that's what they're there for. A lot of towns, whether they're small or larger, have an electric fund or a water and sewer fund to help supplant or supplement money by transfers. You don't have that. You increase, you've got 31% fund balance to spend. Almost $5 million you could budget and spend tomorrow. Obviously, you're not going to, but you got it. Your cash is increased. Yes, it's been a struggle for 10 or more years with the debt in the theater, but each year you continue to increase. And yes, so overall, yes, I think you are, compared to other towns, in good shape.
Okay. Thank you.
You're in good shape for the shape you're in. How's that?
Okay.
Anybody else have anything for Mr. Redmond before we let him go?
Mayor, if I would just ask if I could just say a few words.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Redmond, you've been our auditor for some time now, and I just want to say thank you because it's, I understand that finding auditors is a challenge in many communities right now, and so we're grateful that you've continued your services with us, and just want to say thank you to the department heads and the staff that handle all of the day-to-day purchasing and the receipts and keeping up with transactions, especially the finance staff. During the fiscal year 21-22, we had a finance director resign, and so many of us were picking up the extra workload, and then until our new finance director, Carmen Johnson, started during that year. And so I'm very pleased with the way that staff handled themselves with the finance department and everything, so that we were able to get through those tough times without any penalties. So thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank y'all. Y'all have a good evening.
Mr. Hall, you gonna update us on some grant funds?
Yes, sir. I won't be long-winded this time. Wanted to give you a quick update. I know it may have seemed like we weren't working. It took a while for me to find out where we stood on these things, so we are moving forward with them. The artists were chosen. We looked at what they had submitted to the committee. We picked 3 instead of 5. When these funds were set aside, no one took into account that inflation would become what it is. So to stay within the budget, we have to stick with 3, which are great. And I think that will make a big impact with where they're going to be going. So that is where we stand with that. We're on track with getting the furniture that we need that will go into the green space, and we are on track with our planters. And when we have the entire streetscape plan put together, we'll come back and give you that. So we want to be good stewards of this money. We're not sure if we will get this much money again, so we want to get as much out of it as we possibly can. So we are on track with where we need to be. We're hoping, as long as everything comes in on time, the artists have a deadline so that we should be able to get these installed. So we should have everything ready by early spring. And by spring, I'm saying sometime in April, hopefully, realistically in May. So hopefully you'll be able to see a good input with that. We are working on the other $75,000, which is set aside for building rehabilitation. We're working on how to best use those funds that are going to be fair and would also be an equal way to distribute those funds. So when our economic committee under the Main Street Board of Directors, when we get that, then I'll be coming back to present that to you so we all understand how those funds will be dispersed. So we're all on track. We're getting some stuff done, and I just wanted to give you a quick update as to where we are moving forward with that. Any questions?
Do you have any information, or either could somebody else maybe provide some on the building in the 1300 block that's been, we're moving, trying to move on that?
That one, we've contracted with the demolition contractor, and he's in the process of obtaining the state demolition permit, and so that should be removed or demolished and cleared probably within the next month or so.
Okay.
Or sooner. So.
Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Hall?
Is the $75,000, is that what this Uptown Incentive Program is?
Yeah, incentive program for Uptown Historic Building Rehabilitation.
Okay.
That money set aside, we can't just walk down the street handing out money. So we wanted to make sure that we came up with an equal and fair way of how, if you were interested in receiving and using these funds, we're working on a way that, would best use those funds. And we haven't quite gotten to where we feel like we are where we need to be with how to distribute those funds. So hopefully after this month's meeting, we should be able to have a little bit more clarification as how to do that. The goal is to make sure we get as much bang for that money as we can possibly get. So I've used the term many times, we don't want to just put lipstick on a pig. We want to make sure that the changes we make are going to be lasting and will be something that's going to add good value to the areas that these funds are set aside for.
Where are the murals
The murals, one of the murals is going to go on the side of the former Maxway building on 11th Street. Another mural will go on the Renaissance building, and then the third mural will go on the back side of the quality shop that should help us finish our green space area back there once we get the furniture and everything put back that. So that should take us through to the final phase of that area. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, sir. And next, we will have some information from the city manager on theater proposal.
Yes, good evening again, Mayor and Council. Since this city took back ownership of the Roanoke Rapids Theater last summer, we have conducted a few processes for the sale of real property that have resulted in one proposal that the city was unable to accept, and then another round of proposals that we received no submittals back in December. And so we've been, basically we got through the holidays, and so a couple proposals have come to us, for lack of better words here. So out of fairness and consideration at all, and out of City Council's directive to conduct theater business and conversations in a public forum, the work session was the appropriate place to consider these. And so just as a brief before we ask the proposal submitters to speak up, I want to talk about the status quo of the building right now. It's kind of where we are right now. You know, the city is the owner of the building, and we are currently funding operations, or excuse me, we're funding right now, we have set aside approximately $10,000 per month on average to, pretty much in a dormant or minimal use state, which would equate to about $120,000 a year. That just, a lot of it depends on the usage of the building and any utilities that would fluctuate with extreme heat and cold. Currently, right now, the liabilities are borne by the city. The city is exempt from paying property taxes, so as the owner of the property, we do not receive any property taxes. Right now, the city is funding all of the maintenance needs for it, and we are currently using minimum levels of city staff to keep the building the way it is right now, monitored and so forth. So our expenses are, at a minimum level, we're projecting about $120,000 annually. What I'm calling, I guess, proposal number one is an offer to purchase, and the offer amount is $1,250,000, and that comes with a due diligence deposit of $1,000 and a deposit of $49,000. The financing option here is for a proposal for the seller to finance, or for the city being the seller, to finance the amount of $1,200,000 for a term of 120 months, which equates to 10 years at a rate of 4%. That proposal would have the owner of the building, the new owner, fund the operations, the maintenance, take over the theater. The city would no longer have any interest in the building other than being a lien holder if that were to go. All the liabilities would be gone through the purchaser. The property taxes would be charged to the new owner, and everything would be borne to the new owner of the building if that were to move forward. The second proposal that we have received is vastly different. In fact, there's really no similarities to it other than interest in the theater building itself. It's a business partnership, so it's not an offer to purchase, so there's no financing terms involved, but it would require the city to budget the operational funds and staffing for that. And in the proposal, it states $650,000, and then a performing fee or booking fee per show of about $50,000, depending on the act. The city would continue with its liabilities. It would be still exempt from property taxes under city ownership. The city would still be responsible for the maintenance and staffing and so forth. So unless you have any other questions of me at this time, that just gives you a broad or a generic overview of the two proposals compared to the status quo right now. And I'd be glad to take any questions, but just want to also reiterate that, this is a work session and we want to hear from those who have submitted or done the work, on these proposals, and give an opportunity for City Council to ask any questions or determine any information that Council may need to take into consideration. There's no action that would be allowed tonight because this is a work session. So, and currently right now we do not have an open bidding process. So, in the matter of transparency and discussing theater business in an open forum, that's what we're doing tonight.
Okay, I think if it's okay with the council, we would have the individuals that are making the proposal speak first, and then we can expand on that if that's okay with you all.
I got one question for the city manager though. If I recall, I've forgotten, but it seemed like that the council, in the thing that you sent out to us, you said the average cost would be about, we allocated $10,000 a month for it, which equals to $120,000. If I recall correctly, I thought it was $5,000 that we authorized Public Works to do, and if it needed additional money, that they'd come back. And from reports that we have had, the light bill has only been about $2,000 a month. Am I wrong about that, or did I hear wrong?
We set aside funds for about 3 months, I guess, but we have been very conservative with those funds. And unfortunately, Public Works, Larry Talker isn't here tonight, but he worked with the previous tenant or the previous owner and their staff to determine what their fees were. And a lot of it depends on the rates that are being charged, and it can fluctuate significantly. So we were trying to be conservative in those estimates, but we've also wanted to make sure that at minimum cost right now for us, but in a heavier routine obligation, and if we had more rentals of the theater, we would see those costs go up quickly.
But basically, right now, for the last 6 months that we've had control of the building, our light bill has been approximately about $2,000. Is that
There's been some changes. I don't have that in front of me, but again,
So, for December, when it was really cold, it was about $7,000, the light bill. So, we set aside $30,000 just for electricity in that 3-month budget.
Okay.
So, we have about $10,000 left out of that $30,000. But like she said, with the weather fluctuates, the electric bill up and down, so.
How much was the total that we set? What was it, 50?
It's around 53,000.
And did that have a ballpark time frame? I want to say 3 or 4 months.
3 months.
3 months.
Is what we had.
initially we estimated 3 months, and we were also anticipating some possible usage of the building through rentals, and so we haven't had full occupancy. There hasn't been more than probably a dozen people in there at a time since that we've taken the ownership back on again. So we've been very conservative to make sure that the temperature in the theater is controlled, a controlled environment to keep it, to maintain it as best we can. But again, those costs go up when you start adding people to the building and so forth.
Yeah, but when we add people to the building, they got to pay a fee to come in there to do it, so that reduces our cost. Is that correct? Didn't we set a price on what we would charge people to come in there?
The rental fees, yes. It was intended to help offset our expenses,
Right.
yes.
That's what I thought. So actually, the $120,000 or so, if we had people in there, it would not be that fee.
Well, that's if you rent it out, but we didn't rent.
I know we haven't rented it. I understand that. I know.
I think she was just trying to give a ballpark estimate Like if you're operating at 100%, you know, you have people, you know, people in and out, going in and out of the door, da da da. How much it would cost to, you know, actually run it.
And I want to add too that there's other expenses involved, like the liability insurance. We paid over $9,000. And then, like there's, between the, like the sprinkler system and the elevator, and there's other things that we've had to take back over. But again, we've set it up at very minimum levels right now, to conserve taxpayer funds, for the building.
So again, for clarity, the 120 includes all expenses, to include the liability, to include the water, phone, electricity, whatever.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, and that's a conservative based on approximately 10,000 a month, and that could change with different months.
Okay, well, anybody else got any questions before I call on our people that are here to talk to us tonight? With Brown Entertainment is our first offer that we have in here. Would a representative like to come forward and speak? I was looking at you too. I thought you might get picked. Good afternoon. It's good to see you again.
Very, very nice to see you. And it's a pleasure to be in your council chambers this evening. It reminds me of days gone by when I regularly, once a month, stayed in the council chambers in the city of Graham. But I first wanted to kind of thank you for what you do. Most people don't understand how difficult it is to both meet the obligation that the statute has for you and the privilege to try to figure out the best way to use your citizens' money. It's a difficult thing. But I appreciate it. And this particular problem that we're here to talk about, the Roanoke Rapids Theater, is a particularly difficult problem. And frankly, I'm glad I don't have to solve it. But my clients, Leslie and Dewey Brown, have formed this little corporation within which to hopefully hold the title to the Roanoke Rapids Theater. They own two other theaters. They are actually doing now what they propose to do with your theater here in town, and that is provide entertainment to two other communities, one in Siler City, Liberty, North Carolina, which is right in the edge of Chatham County, and in Reedsville, North Carolina. They have a theater in each city now, providing really good shows. You can go online and look at what they do, look at their lineup of talent. They are substantially smaller than your theater. So doing what they do here is a daunting task. But they believe that they have made the city an offer that gives them the best chance to be successful here and provide your city with an influx of visitors. In my view, and I'm not smart enough to figure all these things out, marketing, things like that. But in my view, I don't believe there are enough people that are living here in Roanoke Rapids to make a commercial success out of a theater that large. And so you're going to have visitors come to enjoy it. Well, that's a good thing for the city because you get all of that traffic and all the dollars that are coming in. And if I read the history correctly, I think that was the original intention for the building. No one knew in 2006 that we were going to have a depression in 2008, that the property values would plummet. And the council that was sitting then, I'm sure, did the best they could. but now you're left with a pretty thorny problem. That is a facility that's eating up $120,000 a year of your taxpayers' money. And our proposal would reverse that. You would no longer be paying any money out of your pocket. And our proposal is for us to pay a little over $12,000 a month, or $144,000 a year, into the city as payment on a note of $1.2 million, and the other money, $50,000, be paid up front. Now, we haven't signed that offer, but we're willing to do it at any time. I've made that clear to both your lawyer, Mr. Davis, and the city manager. I don't have a fancy proposal for you tonight, but at the session in which you're going to take action, we'll have one ready for you. What we expect that that facility, the kind of entertainment it will draw, and we hope that it'll be a money-making venture for the Browns. I mean, they wouldn't be doing it if it was not a commercial venture. But we also hope it'll help the citizens of Halifax County and the city of Roanoke Rapids, because the money won't be going out of your pocket over here to keep that really nice facility up, and the money will be coming in over here, and you're going to essentially turn $1.2 million into a savings account that pays out in 10 years. So essentially, you're going to add $260,000 net every year, plus the property taxes on the building, and not have the liabilities of the building. We think it's a win-win for the city, and also for the Browns. They are good at what they do. I've been to shows at their theater, and I think they'll make a successful venture here where others have not been successful. Of course, I don't have any guarantee about that, and it's business is what it is. It's business, and show business is tough business. I'll answer any question that you have. As I said, that's just a summary of what we presented. We had a nice meeting with the city manager and the city attorney and the mayor, but we've tried to be transparent as we can be. We'll answer any question that you have.
How long have the two theaters that the Browns currently operate been in business?
That's a great question. I ought to know the answer of, but maybe Leslie can come and tell you about the history of their business there. She actually serves as the MC of the shows, so she's used to microphones and crowds, and I'm not.
Yeah, I love a microphone. We have been in business at our Liberty location for 8 years, and we have been in business at our Reedsville location for just a little over a year. So, and we're very thankful for our success at both theaters.
And just for information, could you tell us about the size of those two venues?
I sure can. The Liberty Showcase Theater seats 454 patrons. We have a balcony and then a lower level. And then in Reedsville, we seat 325 patrons.
Anybody have any questions, Ms. Brown, while she's at the podium?
Not exactly to Ms. Brown indirectly, maybe to the attorney and Ms. Brown or the city manager. I guess we've looked at this proposal per se to some degree, or we're just getting it for the first time to discuss it tonight.
We have received the proposal on behalf of the Browns from their attorney here represented, and we've taken a look at it. We basically, we can see we've stated the facts, that it is a offer for 1.2 million, with seller financing. Their proposed terms of 4% for 120 months or 10 years, with approximately $50,000 down. So at this point, there's probably other things that could be talked about per se, but the actual offer to purchase is before you in your packet as well.
I guess just thinking of history to some degree, in the event that I guess we are financing per se, and if there was a default of some sort, or if for one reason or another that they decided, you know what, I just don't want to do this anymore, how would that and where would that, and over the 10-year period versus some sort of default penalty or whatever, and I'm making that part up because I don't know the exact term for that, but you know where I'm going with that.
I think if we're financing it, it would essentially be like I mean, I think a good comparison is the situation that we had with G&T, that if there was a default and that default couldn't be cured, the solution is, essentially foreclosure on the note, unless they agree to sign it back over to the city, via a deed in lieu, such as what happened last time. But that would essentially be analogous to that situation.
And again, for clarity, that was $12,000 a month. Is that what I heard?
And I ran it through a basic
Okay.
calculator, but it would be a monthly payment of about $12,150.
And any of the other expenses, liability, tax, all would go to the buyer.
That's correct.
That's it for now. Thank you.
I don't know what my question is going to be to their attorney or our attorney. And how did we come up with the 4% rate?
That was their offer.
That was their offer.
Yes.
Isn't that below the market rate right now?
I'm not sure what the market rate is. I would have to defer to someone with a bit more experience.
I know the housing market is a little bit higher than that. I don't know about the real estate market. That's the reason I'm asking that question.
Again, this is an offer that was proposed by, by Brown Entertainment, and we have not done any negotiation or anything like that at this point. These are all terms that have been proposed, and really this is an opportunity for there to be some discussion. So if there needs to be any amendments or changes, then it's basically trying to give them some feedback, and we're following council's directives of having these conversations in open session, which is why we're presenting them as facts.
Yeah, we don't, the council, I think the council understands that this is a proposal, but that's the reason that we're able to ask questions on some of the stuff that we read into the contract. I had another question that slipped my mind right now, but
Mr. Smith, can I address it? 'Cause
yeah, I
put
would.
the number in the offer. When we were looking at this together, we thought that the city might want to turn this into your savings account, to a bank account and interest on your bank account would be, I don't know what your investments earned last year, but if it was more than 4%, I want to know where it was. So it would be similar to the other investments that you have for the city, in my view. Now, if that's wrong, then it's just wrong, and I guess there can be some give and take. We did, as I pointed out to Mr. Davis and Ms. Tram, we didn't know how to start this conversation. But I don't remember the number of the statute, Mr. Davis probably does, any sale of real estate by a public entity has to stand open for upset bid. So if our number is wrong, then somebody else will outbid it. You see what I'm saying? So that if you were to accept our offer to purchase, it had to be, you'd have to put it up for upset bid, so the market itself could determine whether the number is too low. You see what I'm saying? And that's the purpose. That protects the citizens from lowballing offers. But that's how we looked at that the building out there, as this is an asset of the cities, and what are you getting for your other investments? My guess is around 4%, but like I say, I didn't know, and that's a guess. So that's where the number came from.
If it's my understanding, and I probably need to go back 4 or 5 years, but all of the income that we had from the theater would be paid directly to the bank that has our mortgage on that property out there.
That particular note has been satisfied approximately a year ago. So based on the current bond payments that we're making for the next 9 years, there's no stipulation that any payments received go directly to that debt.
That was a representation made.
Anything we
made to us. It's not a lien on the building. That your bond funds are not a
Right,
lien on that building.
yeah, it's not a lien on the building, but.
Right, so
That-
there's no stipulation required, so any funds received will
I know
go
it's not a
to the general
stipulation.
fund.
I know it's not a stipulation with the bank, but I thought the council had agreed that all money come in here that from the theater sale or anything else paid directly to the bank to reduce the amount of money that we owed them.
I can't say right now. I don't know.
That, we were looking at two things, and yeah, I think we probably still would do that in relation to the additional funds. But
And of course, that's not really part of any
Right,
kind of,
yeah. Right.
so to speak, contract
Right.
negotiations here, but, certainly if council did want to do that in their annual budgeting process, you could make that part of that and put that, stipulation in there. But as it is, unless council specifically says that, it's gonna come into the general fund, just like any other city revenue would.
help me with the bid process thing. I know at one point that we did bids and 3 bids, and now we're going at least a different look route. So help me with that. How do we?
So this process essentially, under this first situation here, in the last situation, we opened it up for bids, and if we had somebody that had tendered a valid bid that met the requirements, that we could accept, and then council voted to accept that bid, then it would have to be advertised for an upset period. And somebody could come in and bid above that, and then that would kind of go through that process. This, in effect, basically would remove that first step of the advertising of the bids. So the city could accept an offer of a private sale such as this without opening it up for bids, but of course what that would do is you would still have the upset bid period that would follow it. To make sure that it was a competitive process and that, it got fair, that the other potential bidders or potential buyers had a fair chance to make upset offers that would be above that.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mr. Davis, we have 2 offers that we're going to discuss tonight. In the one that we're discussing now, we have talked about the interest rate on the loan. That is something that after we leave this meeting tonight, that if whichever one if we decide to move on either one of them, we can continue that discussion with them after we leave this meeting. Am I correct in that? We're trying to move this thing along.
I understand.
How do we go about that?
I think you can, obviously there's been a little bit of discussion that kind of resulted in this offer to purchase that was tendered to us. you know, we can, you know, if you know, city expresses some, feelings with respect to that, you know, we can have that discussion, and then, of course, you know, certainly before there is there would have to be a formal, as Mr. White had said, you know, this has not been signed, but, you know, certainly there would be a formal offer to purchase that would be put forward that council would have to accept at a formal council meeting. And so, yes, you know, I guess, you know, technically they could, you know, change some of those aspects before then, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I think so. I just, you know, we need to move along on an offer if we're going to accept one of them and not have to continue to make them come or whoever's coming. I keep referring to the people that are standing here now, but whoever we're doing business with, we need to be able to try to move it along as quickly as possible. In reference to your statement about the 4%,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned a year ago, of course, things have changed a lot in a year, and the 4% is probably right on the mark for the savings account. You know, I mean, from what I've seen, it's very attainable now to get 4% on savings. However, you know, if you look at it like it's a owner finance loan, it's probably a little bit low. So, I mean, that's just my thought. But again, as you said, it's a figure, and it can be adjusted either way.
So I guess in relation to steps and looking at this, we have received, so we will look at this and then give feedback through you to them in relation to, I'm looking at the due diligence fee, you know, and other fees. I see Ms. Brown smiling on that because, you know, when you buy a $100,000 house, that fee that fee right there is just as much as 1.2 million. So somewhere down the line that looks wrong to me, and I may be. But anyway, so we could come back with some different numbers in relation to fees and earnest money, I'm sure, and present that back.
The one thing about the due diligence fee, we knew that there was going to have to be an upset bid period, and so we thought that the due diligence fee would take the city through that period, so that we would know whether this couple was going to buy the building and then pay the deposit. You see what I'm saying? So if there was another bidder, then you wouldn't have to refund the $50,000 or whatever other that number is. But if somebody makes an upset bid, they have to put a deposit down, and the old deposit is returned. That's the way the upset bid period, and that's why the number is like that, Councilman.
Okay, anybody got any more questions?
If the council decides to accept the bid, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to move something by the next council meeting anyway, so we can have if somebody else wants to bid on it, we'll be able to not move down 30 more days down the line. How long do you think would be on the closing on it?
That's a good question. I know there's going to have to be some, when the city graciously allowed us to go out there the last time we met with the mayor, and we talked about needing someone to go up on the roof and look at the condition of the roof. This was built in 2006. You know, how many years is that? So we want to look at the condition of the roof, and obviously have a title examination. Get a lawyer that's able to give us a title examination. But we wouldn't expect longer than 30 days, 30 or 60 days in there somewhere. I mean, pretty short timeline.
Okay, and the expense that's going to occur on all this, I noticed in there you want the seller to pay the expense.
Expense of what?
For appraisal and different stuff like this. Is that correct?
Ordinarily, that's the form contract, and that might be in there. Is that in there?
So the majority of this language in this contract is actually prepared by the National Association of Realtors. And do you have a specific section you're looking at that you can kind of cite me to real quick? I mean, I know it's like 15 pages.
I don't remember the exact section right now, but I did,
Ordinarily, the buyers get appraisers
That's what I would think is the case, but
if they want one. I mean, the buyers aren't required to have appraisals, but ordinarily buyers get appraisals. It's been my experience.
I'm looking at page 5, talking about buyer's due diligence process, and it's discussed in there, saying that the obligation is on the buyer, which is like I say, what I would think it would be. I was kind of surprised when you mentioned that, and that's the reason why
I can say that Browns do not expect the city to pay any money for their due diligence. I can.
You would normally pay for the title search,
All
the
the
appraisal if you're gonna, you probably wouldn't have to have one on
A
there.
survey of the boundary, that kind of thing.
Seller would pay for the revenue stamps and the preparation of the deed,
I think that's the way the contract would.
if it's the same as a residential property. Okay.
yes, on page 9 of 15. G, at G.
I don't read G as saying that. I mean, but basically what that says is that that's the condition of the contract that requires us to execute a general warranty deed to the buyer. And we can look at that, certainly if this kind of gets to if this gets to a point where for instance, at the next council meeting, council has to take a vote on this, we can look at that and make sure that issue is resolved. But I would feel pretty comfortable in saying that the buyer would be the one that would bear those costs.
Okay, well,
On page, if you'll just look right on down the page, I think it'll solve your problem. Under I, on the same page, it says, the seller shall pay $0 toward any settlement costs of the buyer.
Associated with current, yeah.
So, we wouldn't expect the city to pay any of our costs.
Okay, have y'all got any more questions
I
before we
don't have any more. No.
move on to our next offer? Well, again, thank you all for coming. Appreciate your information that you gave us tonight, and we'll be back in touch with you.
Again, for us to look at it and to discuss, again, I see some things on here that I would want to definitely discuss with council group and getting back to them. I guess that we could do that. Our next meeting is when?
February 21st.
February 21st. Would we do that prior to February 21st and get all of our, because again, there's some things on here that I know we need to discuss.
I'll say this, and maybe I'm speaking for the city manager, but I know that this is a priority both for myself as city attorney, her as city manager, and I feel like for the council as well, so.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be very responsible.
Sure.
I think this is a priority for the city council too.
It is for the mayor. Do we have someone here tonight that would like to speak on the other offer that we have? Good afternoon. Fine. If you would state your name and.
I'm Duriel Pittman. I'm the CEO for Repute Productions. I want to say good evening to your mayor, fellow council members. And thank you guys for having us this evening. you know, really not a speech giver. So let's start this way. This is home for me, Halifax County. It's because of people like you that I'm able to be the man that I am and be able to accomplish the things that I've been able to accomplish in life. You guys, back in 2005, when I was in my young 20s, and when this young man right here, our operations officer, was just a high school student working at this very theater we're talking about, built a cash cow. You built a cash cow. And the problem you guys have is that you just don't know how to milk it. And we brought to you guys a proposal that we feel will help you bring that money back that you spent all those years ago, that $21 million. Just came here today. I'm hoping that you all had a chance to view the proposal. Have you?
I read through some of it, but then there was some that I didn't have all the understanding of.
Okay. So we're only asking you guys to partner with us as a management company. Allow us the opportunity to come in and book your shows, manage the theater for you. We ask that you guys put aside a budget of $550,000, I think. It's only $550,000. Of that $550,000, around 55 of it is what we use to operate the shows per night. Revenue that we expect, I have my wife, our nice accountant lady here. She can explain to you the numbers a little bit better than I can. The numbers for projection.
All right, so, the 550,000 that we need, it would be to get started to, a lot of the acts that we may book will require a deposit, and also, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Tanya.
Pardon the interruption, but we've gotten a message that those on YouTube can't hear. So if you would try to make sure y'all speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so the 550,000 that we're requesting, it will be replenished, but we will need money to get started. Some of the acts that we book may require a deposit for them to come. Also, we wanted to put money into being able to sell alcohol and concessions, souvenirs, all that stuff would need to be bought prior to the show starting. And then, so let me put it this way. That theater holds 1,500 seats, correct? Okay. So at 1,500 seats, if we only ask $66 a seat, it will bring in a gross revenue of $99,000, and that's only one show. Now, most acts, they may charge $50,000 to come, but that means you still have a gross revenue of $44,000 per show. Will we get Beyonce and Taylor Swift? No. You know, but we can pack the house out. We can get Dan and Shay. We can get Kane Brown, you know. We can get The Weeknd. But to get started is what that 550,000 is for. And we're actually expecting to be able to sell out with only $66 tickets. Now, my husband and I both toured with Green Day last year, and I will tell you that the first 5 rows of the concert, those people paid over $800 a ticket. So $66, I don't think we're gonna have an issue getting, and that's just average. Of course, if someone charges more, we'll have to charge more, but I don't think it's gonna be an issue getting the place booked. When we can't get concerts, I do know that comedy shows are a big deal. Right there in Richmond, which is only an hour and a half, they stay booked for 4 shows every weekend. So I really think that we can keep it going. And honestly, the other proposal, you know, for your mortgage or whatever you want to call it, that would come in at $12,000 a month. That's, you know, it's not really even a fraction to where you can really make if we had the opportunity to book these shows. With 1,500 seats, you know, I definitely think that you can make all the money back. Any other numbers you need to know?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so she spoke about show bookings. Now, those are acts that we can get, but what we like to do is come in and do a market study first to see what the trend is here in the area. We like to start out with maybe a 50-mile radius and see what the data shows. See what the data says, hey, this is what the people here in this area want to hear. Because the entertainment industry is a numbers-driven industry. It's a data-driven industry. Anything that you see or hear from the entertainment industry, you best believe these larger companies have done the research. They've pulled the data. They've used Nielsen and other analytical outlets to determine who they're going to target and what crowd they may bring in. With that being said, I believe that's all. Does anybody have any questions for us?
I have sort of a question, sort of a comment, and our just looking back at our history, we tried to run a theater at one point and wasn't successful at it. Mm-hmm. And right now, I'm speaking for Carl, not the rest of the council, but right now, I don't think we were looking at trying to get back into that that side of it. So my question now is are there any funds or whatever that you guys will put in, or you look for us to kind of start it out and then you guys come in and manage it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, yeah. All we're asking you for is to take the last investment is one more opportunity to operate your own theater and not depend on just the tax dollars. Because if you depend on the tax dollars to generate revenue for the town on this theater, you're only going to make a small fraction. But if you do it yourself and you do it right this time going around, then it'll be more beneficial to the city. I'm sorry.
Some of the acts, and I was reading something somewhere that you guys have contact with some acts and folks. Would it be, or could it be that you guys maybe contact them to help fund your startup, and then with the city, rather than the city doing it? Because again, we're not, you know, that's not our thing or our intent right now, you know, okay, to go back into managing and running the theater. Mm-hmm. and I guess I'm speaking for the others, maybe not, but so in some of the other acts that you guys have, would they be somewhat in agreement to, yeah, I know Mr. Pittman and his group, and they've done these things, and I'm not sure some of the other success stories you have, but and we will be willing to do.
Yeah, there are some people we can reach out to that may come and perform.
Well, I wasn't thinking of the performance side. I was thinking more of the financial side.
Now, we considered that in the future for you guys to search for sponsorship to take away the burden of the deposit. But we know you guys have the theater. Something needs to be done now. This is the fastest way to do it and to get it done. Over time, if we knew for certain, hey, the theater's going to be available for the next year or so, then I'm pretty sure, without a shadow of a doubt, we'd be able to grab sponsors and start getting shows at that place.
So, are you, quote, in this type of business now?
I am.
This very type thing, putting on shows and
Yes,
doing
sir.
that type thing.
Yes,
How long
sir.
have you been involved in that?
We've been involved in entertainment since, well, I don't know, all my life I've been in entertainment, but we've been established since 2016.
16?
Yes,
Okay. So were you able to operate through COVID?
Yes, sir. And I know the economy is kind of taking a turn. The cool thing about entertainment and people is they spend money on what they want to spend money on. And so long as you keep your prices reasonable for the acts that you're bringing, they'll pay.
Well, I've got to kind of confer with what Mr. Farabee said. He and I have, he's been here longer than I have, but I've been here for 13 years. And, you know, we have labored under this debt for the theater. And it's had several different ways that individuals had come to us and told us what they could do. And you know, it's just been bad for us. We've had a hard time with it.
Yes, you have.
The citizens, I know the citizens, whatever we do, they want us to rid ourselves, for lack of a better word, of the ownership of this property. They want to move on. And I think that's probably a big stumbling block for us as a council. You know, we're looking to quote, get it on the tax books and try to move forward. That's why a piece of property that the building probably, it was about a $25 million project, but I think the actual theater itself probably was around $14 or $15 million. So now you're looking at a fire sale, for lack of a better word. But I do know, and if there's anybody that feels any different from me, that we got to take a really hard look if we're going to get back in a business that we're going to be required to put money out to try to make something go. The people that we represent, I'm not sure that that's what they want us to do. But as we say, we're here to talk about things tonight. We're not here to take any action. So has anybody else got any comments?
Well, you know, Mayor and Pro Tem Furby, I'm kind of with y'all. I don't see how we can get into the theater business. It's been tried in the past, like Pro Tem Furby said, and it's been a lose-lose situation for us each time we do this. And I just hate to invest another $500,000 in something and that's just the way I feel about it.
If I may, now we're not asking you guys for any money. Like, we're going to do our services at no cost to you. Like what we do, all the work that we do will be at no cost. We only look for our compensation on the back end through ticket sales. We're not asking you to give us a dime. We're only asking you guys to set that aside so that it's available if needed.
Are you asking us to put up $500,000 though so you can operate?
Yep, just aside. The operation, like I said, we only anticipate operation costing us around $55,000 a show. And that's including your staff, your security, your ushers.
So help me understand this. So if you book an act,
Yes, sir.
$50,000, that figure came out.
Yeah, that figure came out.
I
That's
mean,
not necessarily what the act.
so you book an act for $50,000 and you only sell 400 seats, so you lose $20,000. Is that where the city is going to reimburse you to pay those people?
No, because we're not going to book those 600 seat acts. See, the acts we will bring based on data will be acts that can sell out an arena. So if you can sell out an arena, 1,500 seats is nothing. So that's the avenue we plan to take with that theater.
Okay. Anybody else? Ms. Bryant, you got anything at this time?
Not at this time. I'm just trying to make sure I understand the function. So you basically you're asking to run it for us.
Yes, ma'am.
But we don't really have to put money out
No, ma'am.
unless you all book. I don't know. I don't even know what kind of groups you would be bringing. But you know, if you needed, I don't know, 40,000 to book this person to hold them, and then once the show is booked and sold out, then
We only ask for 15% of ticket sales.
And
I
what
know concerts are doing really well. I'm just not sure what kind of groups you're talking about. Because I was just in Charlotte last week and they announced Beyonce
Yeah, which I told,
coming to Charlotte and the cheapest tickets were $558.
yes, ma'am.
And I was blown away.
Yep, and there are other artists coming out with tours this year as well. I think Beyonce was one we told someone about that before it even happened. We were made aware of Beyonce, and I want to say Taylor Swift, which we actually have rehearsals with Taylor Swift here soon, so we gotta, yes.
what percentage of the profit would, are you talking about that your company would take?
15%. 15% of ticket sales, not the entire profit, because you still have your souvenirs you'll sell. You'll still have your concession. We don't want any of that.
Parking, alcohol.
Yeah, parking and alcohol. That's all city. The only thing we ask is 15% of ticket sales.
But I do have one thing to say. Your main concern is not being able to sell out. We would only need to sell 833 of those seats for you guys to break even. So you could only sell out a little over half and you still don't lose any money. It's going to cover the cost of the show. So we just won't make any money. We only make money if you make money. If you break even, then we don't take a cut. That's how that works. So even if we was only get half filled, you won't lose any money.
All right, well, thank you for coming. Thank you for your proposal.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
That concludes the discussion on the theater. Okay, we have a miscellaneous item on here. Is there any matters that need to maybe be brought up before the council tonight under the miscellaneous item?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to bring before council and see their thought on this. Work sessions, I think we waste a lot of time sometimes on work sessions and we're not getting any business done. If we need a work session, then we should start our meeting maybe at 5 o'clock and have a 30-minute work session before we go into the meeting. I'd like to see us go back into the regular monthly, 2 meetings a month so we can conduct business like we used to.
Okay, as you know,
I would like
Go
to,
ahead, Colin.
but I have a thought, and this thought is going back a little bit, and we always say working together works here. So I'm backing up, and my backup is that maybe Mr. Pittman and Mr. Brown and those guys might need to get together and talk a little bit, because it sounds like maybe at some point something might can happen in that arena. Again, we don't want to discount anything or whatever, but again, you guys probably felt where we are at this point with in relation to managing. So maybe that connection can work somehow. So I just wanted to say that before they left and before we gone on to the next session.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. Mr. Smith has made a proposal about us having 2 regular meetings per month and just having a work session a little bit early if we need to have it. His justification for doing that is so that we don't have to wait sometimes almost a whole month to vote on an issue. So what is the council's thoughts on that? Do we have any discussion? We don't need to vote on it tonight, but we might can get some kind of a thought pattern about how you all feel about it.
I'm basically from my standpoint in agreement with that. I pretty much we do some of the same things that we do in a work session as we do a meeting. And I know the city, Kelly and the city, probably the reason we went to that was to give them time to work on some of the things that we did or came up with. But we would probably still allow that to happen. It's just a matter of we want to be able to vote on things when we need to vote on them, and since we're here those nights, it would make sense for us to do that. So I'm in agreement that we go back into just two council sessions so that we can, if we need be or have to, can go ahead and vote on some items. I'm in agreement with that.
I like that idea also, that we're able to conduct business more than once a month. Or we'll have the option to.
Okay. If there's consensus on that, you know, what we'll have to do is prepare an ordinance, and we can bring that forward at the next meeting for council to vote on, which will, you know, update that.
Okay, and in the meantime, if anybody has any questions that they need addressed, you can speak to the city manager about it. Okay, anything else under that item? If not, we would move on to our closed session, which we would need a motion to go into closed session under the statute that is stated.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
State the statute.